The Colorado River has been experiencing 14 years of drought, which is nearly unrivaled in the past 1,250 years. And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
A water crisis is unfolding in the nation's southwest as the mighty Colorado River begins to dry up as a result of overconsumption and climate change.
The Colorado River is in crisis and can have disastrous effects on the entire continent. Water is life, and now it's threatened by years of mismanagement, with climate change exacerbating the turmoil. The Colorado River is the lifeblood of the Southwest, and both Mexico and the US depend on it.
This week we are reporting here on the lead up to Earth Day, and tonight the alarming new report on the Colorado River. 40 million Americans depend on the water from that river.
Mexico gets most of its water from the USA, but the situation is becoming increasingly dire, and we'll take a look at how it is affecting the stability of Mexico. But every dark cloud has a silver lining, and this one is no different.
Colorado schmolerado. I hardly think a river is why these two countries are spoiling for a fight. They've locked horns before, or have you forgotten?
I hate to say it, but you're right. Mexico gets almost all of its water from the USA. It leaves it in a vulnerable position. However, the history between the US and Mexico is complicated and spans over centuries. After all, a large part of the American Southwest, including Arizona, Texas, Utah, and parts of Colorado, were taken over by the US in the Mexican-American War between 1846 and 1848.
If only they'd let them keep that peace, the US wouldn't face this problem, right?
The recent wave of anti-immigration laws and controversies have made things a bit more hostile than usual. The issue of water is just adding fuel to the fire.
I'm surprised it's taken them this long to argue over water.
It's not the first time. Aside from the Colorado, the Rio Grande is another essential water source for the countries. The Water Treaty of 1944 was struck to govern water usage from the Colorado, Rio Grande, and Tijuana rivers. However, climate change, population growth, and water consumption have changed the status quo.
You can't really blame them. Planning things is hard.
Under the 1944 treaty established between the US and Mexican governments, Mexico was allotted a guaranteed annual quantity of water. In the 1960s, when the river's salinity rose, the water directed to Mexico was too salty for human consumption or agriculture.
I bet they were salty about that. Get it? Salty?
The government then took the dispute to the International Court of Justice, where the US agreed to an updated treaty in 1973 that ensured equal water quality. The bilateral water management agreements tend to favor one country at the expense of the other, it seems. The Minute 323 deal struck in 2017 set standards for managing water, but if that worked, we wouldn't be here now. Things are only getting worse now. It is estimated that the Colorado River has lost 10 trillion gallons of water since 2000. This volume is equal to the water in Lake Mead. To put things into perspective, it'll fill around 15 million Olympic-sized pools.
A little too much importance for one river, some would say. I'm some.
Shows what you know, my hooty friend. It's perhaps the most significant river in the Southwest. It originates from the Rocky Mountains in Colorado itself and flows for almost 1,450 miles, spanning 7 states, before reaching the Gulf of California. The river basin is said to cover around 246,000 square miles. Most of the fresh water from Mexico comes from the US.
Yes, so it's huge. Impressive. You know there are big buckets of water, right?
It's not about the size.
That's what she said.
The Native American tribes, such as the Navajo, Hopi, and Mojave, have relied on it for centuries for agriculture, transportation, and survival. The European explorers caught on during the 1860s. By now, several dams have been erected, such as the Hoover Dam and the Glen Canyon Dam.
With all these dams, you'd think beavers came and set up shop. Of course, we all know the relationship between the natives and beavers.
The Hoover Dam creates the largest reservoir of water in the US, Lake Mead. Other projects like the All-American Canal and the Central Arizona Project have made obtaining water easier and safer. Not bad for just a long river.
Okay, I get it.
The Colorado River Delta is a whole world in itself. It is considered one of the largest wetland areas in North America, as it covers over 3,000 square miles. Temperatures exceed 100 degrees Fahrenheit, but this place is teeming with life. Plants such as saltgrass and alkali heath are found in droves, while along the riverbanks, cottonwood and willow trees thrive. The ecosystem provides a rich breeding ground for animals such as jaguars, beavers, muskrats, waterfowl, and herons.
You can always count on humans to take the axe to Mother Nature, though.
You're right, I guess. Other species such as the Totoboa fish and vaquita porpoise are critically endangered. By 2020, it was estimated that there were fewer than 10 individuals of the porpoise in the Gulf of California.
The vaquita porpoise is on the verge of extinction, with only around 10 animals still surviving. They're the world's smallest sea mammals.
Others, such as the desert pufferfish and Yuma clapper rail, are slowly dying out because of the changing ecosystem. Unfortunately, they may be the first of many species to follow this fate.
What do you mean? It's not like exploiting the river, taking away the resources, and changing the climate can have any negative effects. Are you telling me no one expected this?
They were probably too busy putting up dams everywhere. The river has been dammed, pun intended, to meet the increasing demands of the US. Unfortunately, the builders and the politicians did not consider the long-term consequences of this.
Pray tell me, how possibly could incessant exploitation of the land lead to disasters?
The most notable after effect of overdamming the river is the reduction of sediments in the water. The lack of sediments has led to the erosion of riverbanks, the loss of fertile plains, and the disruption of aquatic habitats. Migratory birds who used to come have also abandoned the area as loss of habitat pushes more creatures into the endangered list.
Imagine coming home to find it's become a wasteland. As a bird myself, I kind of empathize.
Reduced water flow and increased salinization have led to the loss of wetland habitats and impacted the local fauna and flora. The natural composition of the Colorado River has changed significantly. Agriculture, fishing, and tourism are the most affected by this. The once thriving industries of the Southwest are now wondering what the future will hold as things go from bad to worse to, well, just worst.
So that's why the Mexicans are upset about the whole ordeal. Can't say I blame them. But hey, at least it's ecological warfare and not bombs this time.
That may be so, but the increased demands for water have led to disputes, especially during droughts. Water scarcity is getting more common as time passes. Mexicans are worried that their economy, which depends on the river, will be pushed to the brink of collapse. With the overuse of water, heavy damming, pollution, and climate change acting as a catalyst, Mother Nature is on a ventilator.
I think that's putting it too lightly. We ought to dig a grave.
Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. The issue surrounding depleting water levels along the Colorado River basin has become as heated as of late. It is estimated that over 95% of the original wetland habitat has been lost. Furthermore, the salinity levels have risen in the northern portion of the Gulf from an average of 36 parts per thousand to over 40 parts per thousand, and that's still continuing. Many aquatic species, such as shrimp, crab, and fish, are rapidly dying out, since the fresh water they once called home are now becoming more hostile.
Okay, now that sounds like a problem. No more seafood. That's terrible. If ever there was a time for an emergency, this is it.
The US is trying to get things under control. There is an agreement struck between California, Arizona, and Nevada that will cut water consumption by 13%.
Arizona and Nevada have reached a landmark deal on water cuts to stave off a water crisis on the Colorado River.
Yes.
That is simply not enough to make any meaningful change. Indigenous communities, whose lives are at stake, are insisting that the government act fast and allow more voices into the discussion.
So, the US is not doing anything and pretending to be busy? Noted.
The crisis has become an international cause for concern. Water allocation disputes are one thing. Entire areas of land being uninhabitable is another. Tijuana, Mexico, relies heavily on the Colorado River. The aging, inefficient infrastructure cannot cope with the limited water, and Tijuana is shrinking as a result. It is possible that the US attitude on such issues will create more problems in South America and beyond.
You ever think about how it's never the people who cause the problems are always the ones who end up paying the price? Odd.
Accessing water has become a daily struggle as people have to pay for water that's marked up to the max. Water and electricity bills are through the roof. Families report 36-hour shortages and thousands of homes going without water, with tens of thousands suffering. Water shutoffs are the norm, and the government seems incapable of doing anything.
Well, at least US and Mexico can bond over that. Terrible governments.
It all seems lost, but serious efforts are being made to make things better. The different tribal nations of the Native Americans are now banding together to have their voices heard. A recent treaty struck between the US and Mexico, which includes multiple NGOs, has allocated water to the ecosystem. Many areas that had become barren deserts are receiving water again. The environmental remediation projects, especially in the Mexicali Valley, are giving people hope that things could get better.
Better keep that hope tight, because things rarely stay better.
The difference seems to be that US and Mexico are ready to work together on this issue. Instead of thinking in terms of treaties, they have a regional approach now. Investments from both sides are surprising but very, very welcome. Last year, Congress directed around $4 billion to help solve the Colorado crisis. That's a good start, but more will be needed.
You mean you can't just throw money at a problem and hope it goes away?
Preventative measures need to be in place, or we're just buying time. Human mismanagement goes a lot deeper than just dam building and pollution, however.
Climate change is shaking things up again.
You got that right. Hurricanes, droughts, and even floods are becoming common as weather patterns become unstable and erratic. We already discussed the ecological and socio-economic problems resulting from the Colorado River crisis. Imagine that 10 times over. The vulnerable populations that thrive on fishing and farming are at risk. Things can and will go from bad to worse if we don't find a solution to climate change fast. If not, all of our freshwaters may as well be the Colorado River.